So hopefully you can all see my screen and we'll get started, of course. So as Jason mentioned, we are really excited to be presenting Fine Art Portfolio Review Remote this year. We had an amazing response from reviewers. So for students, this is really a fabulous event. As you probably have been hearing from us and maybe seeing our posters around campus, if you're on campus, and through our emails, the actual event will happen on April 26th and 27th in the evening, starting at 6 p.m. and running until 9. And tonight our goal is to help you, as Jason said, to know as much as possible in advance to really prepare for the reviews that you'll have and to make the very most of those experiences. In years past, we've had about 40 organizations or reviewers in attendance. This year we have 50. So, it thrills me to tell you that. I think it's a compliment, a deep compliment actually to you as students, that reviewers are very excited to meet with you and are really looking forward to seeing your work and having conversations with you, not only about your work, but about your career path and your general questions about how to get started as an emerging artist. So this should be a fabulous year, and really excited about bringing it to you. So that being said, we're literally just going to go over kind of detail by detail. That will, again, be helpful as you prepare to attend. So that is going to include what you can do in advance, how to sign up when the time comes. The sign up process for portfolio reviews happens before the event. That'll be next week, and Jason will go into detail about that. What to expect when you're meeting with reviewers, we'll talk about that a bit. How to dress and what to say. I realize that may seem sort of funny to actually articulate that, but often these are really, kind of important questions that students ask us. So we want to make sure that, we answer and respond to that and help you think that through as well. And then last but not least, a really important aspect of this program is also what happens after it, what you will do to follow up and how to make the most of the connections that you're going to make. So that's really the rundown for this evening. As Alan mentioned, we're going to be including the links to the things that we're talking about tonight in the chat, so you have those at your, for your quick reference. So first question is, naturally, who's attending? Why would I attend Fine Arts Portfolio Review Remote? Who are the people that are going to be available for meetings? So it really spans the gamut from individuals who are fine arts professionals, sort of generally speaking, but they run the gamut of their professional activity, from gallery owners and directors to curators to people who work for arts organizations, both large and small, folks who work as residency program directors, others who are art consultants. This is the range of types of people who will be involved. So in order for you to really maximize the experience, we highly, highly encourage you to try and get to know who's coming ahead of time. So do your research, take a careful look at the participating reviewer list on the Fine Arts Portfolio Review website. Just simply clicking in and looking and seeing will tell you a lot, I think, about the types of organizations that are being represented. And through that process, get to know who you would like to meet with and begin to prioritize those places that you'd like to have conversations with. So you can favorite them in artworks, and we'll explain that a little bit in a few minutes. But I really want to emphasize the importance of really getting to know who's in the room. So just to give you kind of quick insight on this, in the gallery realm, and this is by no means everybody that I'm going to be speaking about in the next couple of minutes, but just kind of highlighting for you the variety, really, more than anything. So Amosino is a gallery. It's an artist-run gallery, and it's member-based, which means as a member, once a year or every 18 months, as a member, you would have a show. So there are those types of galleries being represented. Another gallery, 1969, which is a New York City-based gallery that is a large gallery that participates in art fairs and larger shows as well. So very different from Amosino, but also really very interesting. It was like a wonderful surprise to me too, that when I started looking at their website, Jared Key, his work is featured. And Jared is a RISD grad from the MFA program last year. So it was great to see their work. And I just wanted to mention that, because I think the other reality with this event is that there are reviewers who have attended this program for years and years and have shown RISD alumni. So, you know, how nice for you to have that kind of connection to places where there's that level of interest and already, you know, a connection to RISD. Sampson is another gallery that will be represented for specifically for emerging artists, so folks like yourself, and also underrepresented artists too is something that they feature. Drive-by Projects is another wonderful gallery, very small actually, and literally in a storefront where cars drive by, which is how it got its name. They show emerging artists, and mostly in the Northeast region. But nonetheless, you know, just another really wonderful gallery for you to get some insight on. And I encourage you to take a closer look at all of these and others, as I said, on the website. Other reviewers are curators. So the Remix is one of those organizations. They work with artists on very specific projects. They do podcasts with artists. They do exhibitions, a really wide range of things. New Discretions is another curator organization represented by a curator this year. Again, project-based, very community-driven, highly collaborative, and shows that pop up in interesting and unusual places. Along with galleries and curators, there are arts organizations, as I had mentioned earlier. And I just really wanted to point out the Q Art Foundation as one really great example. They have a terrific program, which is an art critic mentoring program that provides writers annually with the opportunity to work with established art critics appointed by AICA to compose a long-form critical essay on one of Q's exhibiting artists. So this is a place where there's a lot of engagement that happens between writers and artists and curators all together. They have other wonderful activities that go on in their organization that would be, you know, potentially of interest to you. So dig deeper, take a closer look if this kind of thing is, you know, of interest. Monira Foundation is another newer organization for the Fine Arts Portfolio Review for us. Very focused on interdisciplinary work and also hosting a residency program along with the other activities that they are engaged with. So again, just please take a closer look and decide on which of these places are of interest to you. Other venues that will be represented at this event are also very discipline specific. So especially for students that have interest in photography, main media workshops in college is a great place to consider meeting with. They host a prize every year that this, you know, in this case, I'm showing this slide from 2020, the Arnold Newman Prize for New Directions in Photographic Portraiture. There will be a 2021 exhibition, 2022. So again, if that is something of interest to you, I'd highly urge you to think about meeting with, it will be actually Elizabeth Greenberg, who is a RISD grad that works there and also has juried this exhibition, this award and exhibition. So again, just nice connections to RISD through main media. Photographic Resource Center, again, the same thing, a really interesting venue with a connection to a RISD alum, Jessica Burko, who will also be in attendance and reviewing work. Jess has a very, also just a particular expertise in artist marketing, in addition to working for the Photographic Resource Center. So, you know, read up, check out her profile, check out the organization, and consider them. And then Socrates Sculpture Park, which may be a place that a number of you know of. It is located in Manhattan on a very small piece of available space for large-scale outdoor sculptural works. So I'm just showing you they have a request for proposals that they will be looking for again in 2022. So if you were interested in meeting with the reviewer from Socrates, that would be a point of conversation, you know, asking about their call that will be up and coming and how you might consider applying for it. Other reviewers will include residency programs, Autodesk, which is really terrific. It's a residency program that's based in all things technology related to Autodesk. So they have numerous locations, San Francisco, closer to home in Boston, also in Toronto. So just another interesting organization you might be curious about and would like to meet with. And kind of on the flip side of that, iPark is another residency program that will be in attendance at the Fine Arts Portfolio Review and is located in, I think it's East Haddon, Connecticut, in a beautiful, beautiful green space out in the country. So if that kind of thing appeals to you, you have that opportunity as well. So kind of coming to the close on reviewers, art consultants are also involved this year, which is fabulous. These are people who are really have expertise in the sale of artwork. So if you have work that you would consider in the future as something that might be suited for either educational institutions, corporate environments, private homes, high-end residences, that type of thing, Boston Art would be a terrific organization for you to talk with, or 9.arts. So I just pulled these little call outs from their websites as a reminder to myself, but also to you. Boston Art, we specialize in planning, designing, and installing custom art programs. And 9.dots, we're advisors, we're consultants, we're curators, we're creators of art experiences. So again, just really fabulous people who are who love art and who also would really be interested in seeing what you're doing and thinking about your work for their purposes, should that be of interest to you. So just at a glance, some of their installations. So in summary, we are urging you to prepare to attend by doing your research, reviewing the organizations participating, favoriting them in artworks. With that said, there's some details on artworks, which Jason is going to cover in just a moment. And one of the things that I wanted to urge you all to really pay attention to in this scheme of artworks is to be sure that you've uploaded your most current resume with a link to your portfolio on your resume or your CV. So that's just really important, because that material will wind up going to the reviewers if you're on their schedule. And even if you're not on their schedule and you submit your application to them, that's the material that they're going to receive from us, and it will represent you as an initial kind of point of reference. So current resume or CV and artworks is important. The link to your work online is ideal on your resume or CV. And then we want you to learn the sign-up process. That's one of the big reasons we do this program this evening. As I mentioned at the outset, the sign-ups happen next week over the course of 2 days. So first day is Wednesday, April 21st at 7 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. And you will be able to sign up for 4 reviews on Wednesday evening. And then on Thursday, the next day, the 22nd at noon, you can sign up for additional reviews, and there's not a limit on the number of reviews at that point. And then we will close the sign-up process on Thursday, the 22nd at 1 minute before midnight. so you have basically 2 days to be involved in doing the sign-ups. All that said, I'm going to turn it over to Jason, who will also go into all the kind of finer points of artworks and the details involved in that.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. So those quite a lineup of curators and reviewers that are going to be meeting with students. It's really exciting. So thanks for giving that overview. And so now we'd like to cover the system, which hopefully makes this intuitive and easy for you to do. So we've got the demand for time with you all as students, and we tried to find the best platform possible for this purpose. And so 1220 is the website or the platform that serves artworks. And we specifically sought 1220 as an improvement for our portfolio review events, because it gives us a lot of power to customize the platform, and it supports equal access for all students to get a chance at meeting with these great reviewers. So, we will be setting up the schedules in the system, and each schedule has 7 time slots, and these schedules run from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. with 2 breaks. So that's why there's 7 time slots. And these time slots run in 20-minute increments. Now, there will be some popular organizations that are attending the portfolio reviews. And, the way that this event is designed, there aren't actually enough spaces to go around for absolutely everyone to meet with every organization that they want to. So it's very important to use networking as a follow-up to your experience at portfolio reviews. Even if you're not able to meet with them, rest assured that the whole reason why these people participate in this event in the first place as reviewers is to make connections. And these connections can come a week after the event, or a month, or several months after the event. It's all good for these reviewers to keep engaging with RISD. So we do have some terminology that we need to review with you all. 1220, this platform does use some conventional terms that may feel a little awkward to an art and design school. So it's not too much, but I just want to go through some of that terminology. So you're going to see in the system, and we're going to refer to this tonight, on-campus interviews, or OCI, as it's listed at the top. And for us, this is the vehicle that we use for our portfolio reviews. The next term that we're going to deal with is interview time slots. So please don't be intimidated. You are not booking interviews. You are actually booking time slots for portfolio reviews. So this is one of the ways that we utilize the system, maybe in an art and design spirit, and not as like, an accountant booking an interview time or something like that. And then another one is applying. So the way that you engage with these reviewers is by applying, like the button that you press is going to say apply. But again, please rest assured, this is not an application for a job. It's literally the way that your resume is submitted to the reviewer. So OCI is a portfolio review. Interview time slots are simply just portfolio review time slots. And when you apply, this is really the way that you send off your resume to the reviewer. You can go to the next one. Yeah. Okay, so signups are first come, first serve. And sometimes for popular organizations, these time slots may fill up quickly. And this is why I was bringing up the point about, like, if you don't get on a schedule, don't worry. Follow up after the event and network. Come and talk to us. We'll show you how easy it is to engage with these folks. It's a good idea to create a top list of organizations that you're interested in advance. So like Susan had gone through great lengths to show you, like, here's the excellent and really exciting aspect of researching these organizations and learning more about them. Well, it would be smart to rank this list so that the first organization that you go to sign up with happens to be your top choice. So we can be really intentional about getting on people's schedules in the most efficient way. Also, as Susan had mentioned, you need to have a resume loaded in Artworks, and doing this in advance would be wise. Instead of getting your resume uploaded when signups are taking place, it would be better to do it soon. And this would also give you the chance, if you're having any trouble with the system, you can reach out to us and we'll make sure that it's taken care of with you. And then this shouldn't really be a problem, because fortunately we're going with this later time frame now for the portfolio reviews. But if there is any obligation that you need to miss that's associated with a class, please just get permission from your instructor well in advance. All right, so one of the things that Susan had mentioned was favoriting an organization. So here we're actually looking at what the list of portfolio reviews looks like right now in Artworks. And you can see that there's like this heart icon that's next to Kendra Jane here, the Kendra Jane Patrick portfolio review. So in this case, this presumably would be someone or an org that I would favorite. So if we click ahead, you can see that we're setting up a favorite filter at the top, and we're selecting yes, and then click again. And now we're listing only our favorites. So this is kind of a cool trick. Like, remember, I had just mentioned your top 10 list. Why not, when you're going in to do your portfolio review signups, set up this little favorite only filter, and it'll make sure that it's only focused on the ones that you're really interested in. And this can speed up the process for you. And then you can click ahead again. Great. So let's go through the steps of the sign up process. So you'll be logging into 1220. Hopefully this is not a foreign experience for you guys. And especially because you're here tonight, you've already registered for this program. So we know that you're no stranger. But you'll be logging into the system just as you normally would. And as Susan had mentioned, it opens up on Wednesday, the 21st at 7 p.m. And the first thing that you're going to do, before you click play, Susan, just a moment. So the way that this is going to work, and we'll show you a demonstration in this next video, you'll be going over to the left to click on OCI and jobs. And then, as we had mentioned, portfolio reviews are called OCIs, or on-campus interviews. So you'll be clicking OCI at the top. So now we can click play on the video. And so you can see the mouse is going to move over to the left to go to OCI and job listings. And then it's going to move up to the top where it says OCI. And now we're only going to be looking at OCIs, or these portfolio reviews that I had mentioned. So we can advance to the next slide. Great. So the next step, we've listed out the OCIs. Now we're going to be applying to an organization. And so just to be clear, as Susan had mentioned, there will be a 4 application limit on that first day on the 21st, or Wednesday at 7 p.m. So we can click play.
Sorry, Jason. Thank
No
you.
problem. Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you. So you can see that I'm clicking on a portfolio review here. And then in the upper right, we see the apply button. So we click apply, we're looking at our resume on file, and we're applying. This looks just like applying to a job, except as I had mentioned before, don't worry, we're just submitting our interest in this portfolio review. So we can click ahead to the next slide. Thank you. So before we go to watch the movie, I can review that now we're going to be booking a time slot. So you look at the OCI listings, you click apply on the OCI that you're interested in, and now you're going to look for a time slot that's available. Let's click the play on the movie. So this picks up where we left off on the last one. When you apply, you get the opportunity to select an interview time. And we can see all of these interview times that are available. And if you click on it to select an interview time, it will tell you that it's been completed successfully. And now you can see that the status has changed and that we are, in fact, like engaged with that OCI. Do you want to click play one more time, Susan?
Sure.
On that video?
Yeah, it goes pretty quickly, actually.
Yeah. Thank you. So we select the OCI. Oh, somehow it went back to the, oh, I'm sorry. You know what happened? We advanced to the next slide by accident. I don't know if it's possible to hit the left arrow.
You want to go back to 21?
Yes, please.
Left and right. There we
There
go.
we
Okay.
We'll try that again. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, it keeps jumping ahead to the next
Yeah,
one.
I'm not sure why it's doing that. I'll try one more time.
Thank you.
We're in the right place.
Yeah, I mean, looks like you've been doing it right all along. Now we're selecting a time. So the times will show with the blue button next to the open times. Now, if a time is taken, there won't be a blue button next to it. So that will be something to keep in mind. So when you do go to select an interview time, you may be looking for one that's available and comparing that to your own availability. If, unfortunately, this happens sometimes with really popular organizations. If their schedule fills up quickly, then there may not be any times available. And that's where you're going to shift gears and try to follow up with them after. So we can advance to the next slide. Okay, so I just mentioned, like, what happens if you can't find a time slot? So do remember that there is a limit of 4 applications on the first night. So what you might be thinking is that, like, if you go to use one of your 4 chances for an organization and there's no times available, you don't want to give up that chance. You want to try to use that 4th opportunity for another organization. So don't worry, what you can do is you can withdraw your application and earn back one of those chances. So let's hit the play button on the movie. And I can go into the OCI that I didn't get on the schedule for, and there's an option to withdraw from application. Simply click that button to withdraw and say okay. And once that's done, you can now see that you earn back one of those available opportunities to apply to a different organization. So hopefully you can take advantage of that if that happens to you. We can go to the next slide. And you might need to click down there.
Sorry, Jason.
No, please don't be.
Inadvertently. Okay.
All right. So on Thursday, so the day after the first day of signups are on Wednesday at 7 p.m., the 21st. So the following day at noon, that's Thursday, April 22nd, we're going to remove that application limit. So no more withdrawing from applications to get in somewhere else. You can sign up for more portfolio reviews with organizations as long as they have openings remaining. So we can click to the next slide. And then, you may encounter some organizations that have full schedules, or they don't have a time that syncs up with your schedule. So in that case, you can still apply to that organization, which will, as I had described before, it'll submit your application, it'll submit your resume to the organization. And we will be following up with these organizations post-event to, number one, send all of those applications and resumes to them. And we're going to encourage them to follow up or to welcome your outreach, anything that they're capable of doing. Now, all signups will close on midnight on Thursday. So that gives you like a big window to get your signups in. We can move forward. To find your review times, you can find them in the upcoming window pane, which we're looking at right here. It shows what's coming up. And then you'll also be getting email confirmations for each review time that you get, which will also help you manage your schedule. So other things to prepare for that kind of moves a bit beyond the technical process of using artworks is, what do you bring to your conversation? So knowing what your career goals are for this year could be good to share. The plans that you have for your work or how it's developing, the passions and the ideas that you have for your work. And, if you come in with this prepared in advance, it allows you to present it in a way that's concise and presents with conviction. It's a more impressive way to learn about what your plans are. And that's why we call it a pitch, really. And it's a great idea to practice your pitch with other people, or if you feel more comfortable, you could call it your introduction. So you've got 20 minutes to work with in this portfolio review, and a great way to start this time with a reviewer is to give them a brief introduction. And the best thing that you can do, and hopefully by preparing in advance, it helps you to feel more at ease with what you're about to do is to be yourself. Any good reviewer will try to get you to loosen up and to be more comfortable with them. So the more that you can be yourself and to show your work and to share your story, the better. That's what the reviewers are hoping for. So it's also a good idea to have some questions ready for reviewers, just so that you're getting more out of this experience. So these are some example questions that, Susan, you can just click through to give you a sense of some of the different topics that they will be expecting from you. So it could be like what your strongest pieces are, or how you could improve your portfolio to be more suited to them as a curator or a gallery, what they might look for in people that are applying for a show or a residency, any advice that they may have for an emerging artist, and types of jobs that might be available to you to support yourself as a fine artist. And also being really upfront with like, hey, how can I follow up with you in the best way possible? So this gives the reviewer a chance to have some say in how you're going to follow up. And that could be really great advice to help you be more efficient in your outreach. So what is it like? You know, we know what that we've had in-person events before, and you're no stranger to the experiences of having video conferences. So this is your chance to be one-on-one with a reviewer, and it does have its advantages. You know, it's very convenient for reviewers. It's also, you could argue, convenient for you as a student, a very busy student, I might add. It gives us this ability to run the event later in the evening, which is also a great advantage. You know, considering what you're going to wear is a topic that comes up a lot in our advising appointments. And so we want you to express yourself and to show you care. And that means different things for different people. Some people are very creative in their dress and their appearance, and others may be more conservative and feel like they want to go with a more traditional attire. It's totally up to you. But what should come through, and no matter which direction you choose to go in, is that it looks intentional and that you care. That is just one of those subliminal cues that means something to the reviewer. And, you know, it's worth covering some of the Zoom etiquette that could help to ensure that you have a good experience. So testing your technical stuff in advance is always a great idea. Like your Wi-Fi or your internet connection works well. You've got screen sharing working well and working properly. You've got a quiet place to conduct your reviews so that you're not getting distracted. You've got good lighting so that you can be seen well and you're not being backlit. And trying to silence any notifications that could pop up on your computer or your cell phone would also be wise. And with, you know, the big consideration with presenting is that it's a little bit of a challenge to fit a quality conversation in 20 minutes. I will tell you that while we're on this topic, reviewers will be receiving your resumes in advance. If you have a URL to your portfolio, they may be checking it out in advance. Or if you have a portfolio sample that you're submitting as part of your materials, they may check that out before the event as well. A great way to start this kind of conversation is to actually like have the courtesy to ask the reviewer how they would like the conversation to run. Like, do they want to drive, or would they prefer that you drive and you show your work and take them through your portfolio? So that'd be good to get out in front. If you are sharing your screen, and if there's any audio, so if you've got any work that's time-based or in video with sound, please make sure that you check that box when you're sharing your screen to include your computer audio. And, you know, whenever possible, if you've done your homework and you've checked out these organizations or independent curators in advance, if you feel as though there are certain pieces that relate to what they're doing, then why not try to be a little bit flexible in your presentation if you can? If you've got like a portfolio that is more like a linear experience and a PDF, you don't need to go changing it, but you should be thinking about how your work relates and making note of that, or mentioning it as you're making your presentation. Thank you. And so follow-up. As I said, you may not get to meet with some folks, or if you do get to meet with people, it's still a great idea to send a thank you note and or an email. Connecting on LinkedIn and Instagram is a fantastic idea. It's just very convenient to do so, and it can be a good way to keep track of people's credentials. And then keeping in touch is also important. You know, you can make a wonderful connection at portfolio review, but if you don't do anything to keep in touch, that connection could wither and become, it could dissolve essentially. So by keeping in touch, even if it's on a monthly or bi-monthly basis, it can just be a great way for them to keep you in mind for future opportunities. And now I believe is the time that I will let Susan take it from here.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. And really, we're just kind of picking up on the details Jason was reviewing about how to really approach networking and being proactive and taking full advantage of the moment. Honestly, of being able to give thanks is a very easy, quick way of sending follow-up. We did a program earlier this spring, and there was a curator from Mass MoCA who attended and was part of our panel discussion. And she really made a very specific point to say, follow up, just say thank you. It doesn't have to be anything more than a sentence that just says, thanks for taking the time to meet with me. I really appreciated the opportunity to talk with you. It can be that simple. So really, just to emphasize this point that it doesn't have to be labor intensive to do this type of thing. And it's a great way to keep that connection warm so that you can return to it again in the future when you have some new work to share. And we would really encourage you to keep all that in mind. So Jason has indicated a couple of times that there may be reviewers that you would hope to talk with, but you were not able to sign up to actually meet with them at the event. But nonetheless, you can still send your materials to them as Jason was describing. So regardless, honestly, of whether you've met with people or not, this idea of sending some follow-up to express your interest is still really relevant. I think the key things to keep in mind with that type of outreach would be to just tell them about your interest and who they are and what they do, be they a curator or a gallery or an arts organization, as we were describing earlier. Offer to share your work with them in the future. And there are other resources too that you can refer to find ways to network and reach out to reviewers. So that's what we'll show you next. One of the things that we haven't talked about much at all, but I do want to mention is LinkedIn, because for some of the reviewers, LinkedIn is a very kind of common way that they stay in touch with a lot of different other arts professionals and artists. So I recognize too that may not be kind of something you're accustomed to doing yourself. So we just wanted to give you a little point of view on that. In this case, we're showing you an example of one of the reviewers actually, who will be representing Amos Eno Gallery, Audra Lampert. And Audra's attended the Fine Arts Review in the past on behalf of other galleries that she has been affiliated with. So if you were to look for her on LinkedIn, simply, literally Google her name or Google the gallery and find her name on the gallery website, and then find her at LinkedIn. This is her profile, what I'm showing you here. So you'd be able to get a point of view about what her past experiences are as a curator, as an arts professional, to get to know her a little bit before you even had a review with her potentially, or if you're going to follow up, whether you meet her or not. As I was saying, having this background information can be super helpful. So these are just two quick examples that I wanted to share on what you would say on LinkedIn in case that's, unfamiliar to you. So the first example is, in the instance where you actually had a meeting with her. So again, LinkedIn is very simple messaging. It's probably the shortest cover letter you would ever write to anybody is the way I think of it. You have a character limitation on LinkedIn. So, it's really built for quick communication. So the example is, hi Audra, it was great meeting you at the RISD Fine Arts Portfolio Review. Your advice and suggestions were incredibly helpful. I look forward to sharing new work with you in the future. Please join me on LinkedIn. Sincerely, Susan. Sincerely, your name. So you're not really asking for anything. You're simply just, essentially saying thank you and that you want to stay in touch and that you'd like to have the connection on LinkedIn. And that's the way you would, initiate that. So in the instance of not having met a reviewer, this is another approach that you could take. Hi, Audra. I was hoping to meet you at the RISD Fine Arts Portfolio Review, though I was unable to sign up on your schedule. I'd like to invite you to join me on LinkedIn. I'd be excited to share my latest work with you for future curatorial projects. Thanks for your consideration. So again, just giving point of view about why you're interested in connecting and referencing the Fine Arts Portfolio Review is kind of the common thing between the two of you. You're at RISD, she was doing a RISD event, and that's the reminder in that message. So again, it's nothing too complicated. It's just a really simple way to connect. I wanted to show you Larry's LinkedIn as well, because Audra is connected to Larry. So if you use LinkedIn at all, you know that once you see a LinkedIn profile for one person, you can begin to see the other connections that they have. Larry is a really wonderful human being. He's a terrific person. He's also a curator and he's an arts professional who's based in New York. And unfortunately could not attend this year because he's really busy and occupied with other things. But my point is, Audra is a point of connection to another fine arts professional that you may want to connect to as well. So it's really, LinkedIn can be a really wonderful goldmine of information that you can continue to mine for other connections to other fine arts professionals. So just more examples of that is what I'm showing you here. Another really wonderful way that you can connect with current and past reviewers from the Fine Arts Portfolio Review is naturally from the website, where we do list out the reviewers who have attended the program in years past. So you can see who they are by name, and again, look for them on LinkedIn and do your outreach that way. We also have, as part of Artworks, an employer directory. So it's as simple as going to the employer directory and literally searching by name for one of the organizations that you're interested in connecting to through email. So I just gave you the quick example of drive-by for drive-by projects, and you'll see when you look at the information that comes up for drive-by that Beth Kantrowitz is one of the people associated with drive-by. She's one of the co-founders, and her email address is right there. So if you met with Beth but you didn't get her email in your meeting, that would not be surprising. I think in a review situation, you get very involved in talking about the work, and then your time's up and you're moving on to the next reviewer, and you might have forgotten to ask for this information. But nonetheless, you can find not every reviewer's email address, but many of them in the employer directory. So that's just another great way for you to be able to access the contacts for people that you did or did not meet, in fact. So, the parting words always are: be prepared, be ready, use the Fine Arts Portfolio Review website for all the student FAQ section, especially the videos that Jason was showing you about the sign up process are also on the website. So of course you can take a look at those again. I would really encourage it. I think seeing those videos and hearing us talk it through may sound like it's like more steps and like a little bit more in labor involved. It's not at all. It is actually a pretty quick process, and it will be faster the more you understand it and you know it and don't feel intimidated in any way by it. So again, just be prepared, and I think all will be well. Jason has mentioned, and I just want to, reiterate, we are here to support you in every way that we can with your professional lives going forward, and as emerging artists especially. So we do have our drop-in advising where there's no appointment required. And you see the days and times here: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 to 1, and then Tuesday, Thursday, 11 to 1. This is all of our staff. We're, people who are really invested in your success. So please join us whenever you've got a question. Do not hesitate in any way. We're here to support you. So all that being said, we really appreciate you attending this evening. I think I speak for Jason and Ellen as well when I say, there's a lot of this kind of Zoom presenting that you're probably exposed to and part of all the time. So we do understand it can be very fatiguing. And at the same time, we hope that this has been helpful. So I think we'll turn our attention to your questions. It's about 10 of 8, and we're, committed to being here for as long as need be for your questions. Happy to stay past the hour, but we're also want to be respectful of your time too. So that being said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we'll just move into questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you, Susan. That was awesome. So we've got a question that we can address. So how much time should we spend talking about our work and presenting our portfolio versus the time left for the reviewer to ask questions and give feedback?
Mm-hmm.
So I can take a crack at that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like when I mentioned, when you start your portfolio review, it can be courteous to ask the reviewer how they would like to proceed and how they would like this 20 minutes to go. I think that if you'd like to set a framework for yourself, I think that would be wise. I always find that when you're showing your work, it could be good to build in a pause as you're showing your portfolio to check in with the reviewer and see if they have any input. Maybe you've got some specific questions, like I had talked about, like having some questions in mind for an organization. Maybe if you feel like the reviewer is just nodding and not participating the way that you wish, you might have a pointed question to ask about the piece that you've just shown or something like that. So it is one of those kind of professional techniques to build in pauses during your time with a reviewer to give them a chance to get in and interject. So that would be my best guess, would just be like pause regularly, maybe every 5 minutes, to check in and see if you could get some input.
Yeah, I would say too that for the most part, the people who will be reviewing are very experienced at doing this type of thing. So they may have a really particular way that they will suggest, actually. They might offer that the idea for how they would be comfortable talking with you. And you could even start off by asking that, do you have a preference? And I'm sorry, Jason, if you said this, I'm repeating you, but it's really about, the courtesy of that and the sensitivity to somebody else who, again, like here we are in this Zoom world where you're not able to read like all the finer points of body language or expression as well. So simply to say, what's your preference? I'm really open to whatever you would like to do in terms of reviewing the work. I'm happy to start off and show you. I have a couple of pieces, da 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 da. Or if you would prefer, please just let me know what you would like to do. And that opens the door to like, okay, then you get started. And then back to Jason's point, if you're in charge and you're doing all the talking and you don't want to be the only one talking, just take a pause and say, how am I doing? Would you like to see the next piece? Or I actually have a question for you about this. Is this a good time to ask? So I think you just have to, kind of roll with it a little bit too. And one of the other points Jason made a few minutes ago was like, just be yourself, be in your own skin, do what feels right to you. And I think that will also put you at ease a bit if you're feeling a little bit nerved about this, which would be understandable, Yeah.
Another question has come in. So instead of flipping from one slide to the next, do you think it would be ideal to set a field of work and gravitate to the selected few they might want to talk about? And I've been reading this question and thinking that this may relate to, considering the works that you feel are more relevant or that the reviewer feels are more relevant to their practice and wanting to show that work, which I think that if you're capable of doing your kind of research in advance to determine what pieces you feel are most relevant, I think that would give you an advantage in getting more out of the portfolio reviews personally.
Yeah, it's funny, I immediately, my mind went to what would it be like if I were in your studio, and how would you show me that work? Would it be just like in a representation, like kind of like in a lineup around the walls? Where would you want me to begin? What would that impression be like? And I know that we're not talking about being in a space with walls necessarily, but at the same time, I think the question is, what's the work you're most interested in getting feedback on? And that's how I would approach it, rather than like, here it all is, so depending on how much all that is, it could be a bit overwhelming. So how can you help me see the thing you want the feedback about the most? And that I think is probably going to serve you well, versus like, oh my, it's so much, where should I begin? On the other hand, I can see the argument for, doing that, because you want to get an impression, right? Part of this is about how you present your work. So if you did that for one reviewer and got, one impression, and you did something slightly different for another reviewer, maybe that would be another way, like do a little bit of both and see what works best. I don't know how easy or difficult that would be for you to do it, but this is all about getting the reaction so that you can take that in to make decisions about how you want to present your work going forward. I don't think there's a right or wrong way, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I think that we're also talking about planning for the scenario where you are in charge. And there's also like that possibility that you'll have some reviewers that have already checked out your work and they actually do want to ask you about pieces that they responded to in advance, which will make your life even easier, So it's good to be prepared for any scenario. And I always feel like if you're prepared to manage and run the presentation and ask questions to get the most out of your experience, you'll be prepared for anything.
Yeah, great points. Yeah.
All right, so a couple more questions. What if we aren't necessarily looking for feedback, but more so for how to move forward in the field with the work?
Great question. Yeah.
Want to take it?
Yeah. So I mean, my instinctive kind of gut reaction to that is that's exactly why these people are here to talk to you. So I think the way, as Jason was talking about, introducing yourself and kind of setting the tone for that 20-minute conversation, my suggestion would be really a simple one, like, hi, my name's Susan. I am this major this year in school, and I actually have some questions just about starting my career. My work is really important to me, but I read a little bit about your background, and I would be really curious to your responses to some of the questions I have. For example, this question. So kind of taking that approach and setting it up right from the get-go on why you appreciate the time with that individual reviewer, and why you're especially interested in talking with them, kind of expressing your understanding of their background a little bit, and then kind of moving forward with your questions. And I I'm sure that they would be receptive to that. I have no reason why not.
Mm, thank you. Another question is, I am majoring in interior architecture, but I majored fine art in my undergrad, and I have a lot of painting and installation art. Can I participate in portfolio review, number one? And then should I separate my fine art portfolio with design works to be shown as artist rather than designer? Do you think I should make a separate website? So first question, can you participate? Yes, absolutely. It's open to all majors. Um, and should you separate your fine art in a separate portfolio? Yes, I think that it would be advantageous to show fine art at the fine art portfolio review. I think that you will get a stronger reception from the reviewers. You know, like on the participating reviewers page, it shows the majors that these reviewers are interested in. So it may be, you may not get a good response, or the reviewers may not be versed or capable of giving you feedback on your design work. And whether or not you create a separate website, if you would prefer not to, you could make like a fine art page on your existing website and just send that full URL to that page as part of your experience for portfolio reviews. You do not need to make a separate website if you don't want to. And I could see how you're probably too busy to do that at this point. So those are my impressions. If you have anything to add, Susan.
Yeah, just to clarify quickly that I don't know that we said really specifically, Jason, that the fine arts portfolio review is for juniors, seniors, and graduate students. So you need to be a junior, senior, or a grad student to participate. And I know that there were some students this evening that were signed up to attend the prep program that don't fall into that category. So I just wanted to clarify that and also explain it a little bit. And the reason for that distinction of junior, seniors, and grads for the event is because your portfolios are more developed at that point. So if you're a sophomore asking that question or a freshman asking that question, I kind of doubt it, but just in case, your turn will come. That's what I would say. And if you are here tonight in a EFS student or a sophomore, good for you, to be already paying attention to this program. It's really interesting to me that an interior architecture student has a fine art portfolio and would be participating next week, the week after. And it immediately called to mind the art consultants who will be participating. These are folks who look at work that goes into interior spaces all the time. So not having any sense of what your work looks like, but knowing that you're interested in interior architecture suggests that there's maybe a really interesting commonality of your understanding of space and the way work fits into space and what these folks do all the time. So I, of course, wouldn't limit you to just, having reviews with 9 Dots or Boston Art, but I would certainly encourage you to think about it because there could be some really interesting discussions that you'd have about your own work plus your studies in interior architecture and how those two things come together.
Excellent. Another question. Should we only show completed works, or can we talk about our process and if their org would support our practice as well as advice for future endeavors? Yeah, so I think that there isn't a strong rule about this aspect. I will say that for some portfolios, you may show the finished piece, and then you may also show some of the process work that went into that final piece. So these reviewers certainly aren't, they will be familiar with the creative process and can respond to it. I think that it's just important for you, if you are showing work that is still a work in progress, and if you intend to share your process, I would just make sure that as you introduce that piece, you introduce it so that it's clear that you are not presenting this as a finished work, or that you didn't care enough to finish it or show the finished piece. It's just that you're actually looking for input on the process. That'd be
Yeah.
my impression.
Yeah, I mean, I have maybe a slightly different thought that came to mind when I heard the question, and I may be misinterpreting, so please forgive me, but just to say, this is when I heard the question, this is what it made me think. It made me think, if I'm a student at RISD right now, I have the advantage of being in this, artistic community where I can continue to make my work, and I'm going to graduate maybe this year or in the future. And what happens then? Where do I continue to make my work? How do I take a work in process or in progress and like continue it? How do I do that? And maybe going to Pioneer Works to continue this work that I'm doing right now is the place for me to go. Or maybe Samson Gallery is a place for me to go to continue to make this work. Or maybe that wasn't a good example, but one of the residency programs, for instance, is a good place for me to go to continue to make my work. So if that's kind of the question behind the question of, can I show work in progress, and ask if I can, do this in the future in their organization, I would just go right to that, right to that point and say, as a student, I have the advantage of having some resources of space and time right now. Well, some space, maybe not RISD space always, but space and certainly time as a student. What are you looking for in applicants who have works in progress and would like to continue to make work in a residency with you or in your space? So again, just trying to really ask your question directly, I guess is what I'm saying. Really ask your question so that you get a satisfying answer. And again, I'm making some interpretations here because this is very one-sided. We're not in a conversation, but if that was part of your reason for asking, I would just say, be direct. Just ask the question and see what they say.
Yeah, and to that point, Susan, as we're interpreting these questions on the fly and answering them, hopefully it's been very clear tonight, but just to make sure that it's clear, we'd love for you guys to come in and meet with an advisor for any kind of assistance. A lot of things can be worked out very quickly through our drop-ins, which last 15 minutes. And they're convenient, Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 9 to 1, and Tuesday and Thursday from 11 to 1. So every day, no prior appointment needed. Just walk in virtually and meet with us. So I hope that you'll all take advantage of that as an extension of tonight's event to get you ready for Fine Art Review.
Do we have any more questions, Jason?
Not at this point. Great questions tonight. Really psyched on this group.
Yeah, good. Well, I guess in that case, we'll say thank you. Thank you for your time. Thanks for being with us and hanging in this evening. And we are really looking forward to your involvement in the sign-up process next week, in the actual event the week after. And just to say, Jason mentioned drop-in advising. When we do the sign-up process next week and the event the following, there will be a drop-in space for you. So as you may have questions in the moment, all of our staff actually will be on hand to address your questions in the moment as quickly as possible. You'll continue to get emails from us, which is probably no surprise when I say that, but our emails will give a lot of instruction around this type of thing too. So you can literally come into a Zoom room with us. You can call us, you can email us, whatever works for you. But we are really like sort of at the event and in this way, with it with you, and want to be supportive. So if there are questions that are coming up, then just ask away. So all that said, have a great evening, a restful evening. I know that the semester is rolling on, so best of luck with all that you're doing. And we will see you soon, and take good care. Thanks again.